She dropped her keys on the hallway table like nothing happened. Like her lipstick wasn't smudged. Like her perfume didn't reek of cologne I don't own. Like I hadn't been sitting in the dark for 45 minutes rehearsing the one line I wasn't sure I'd be able to say without my voice cracking. "I'd kiss you," I told her, standing completely still in the middle of the room, "but I don't want to taste your boyfriend." Her entire body locked. For a second, it was like her skeleton vanished, all bones turned to glass. The key stopped jingling. Her hand hovered over her purse strap. Her mouth opened, barely, just wide enough to draw a slow, guilty breath. And then, silence. I had turned off every light in the house except one lamp in the corner, so when she looked at me, all I saw was a flicker of her expression. Not quite fear. Not quite guilt. Something worse. Calculation. She didn't deny it. Didn't even ask what I meant. She just stood there, shaking, eyes darting around the room like there might be cameras, or maybe knives. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said finally. But her voice betrayed her. It cracked on the word no, and her fingers clenched around the strap of her purse so tight, I heard the leather creak. I took a step closer. She didn't move. "I saw the messages, Tasha," I said. "I know where you've been." Still no denial. Just that quiet inhale, the kind liars take when they realize they've run out of lies. "You went in his place," I continued. "That boutique hotel off 14th. The one you claimed your work retreat was at." She blinked. "Once. Twice. He's the one with the green Jeep, right?" I added, "because I saw it parked outside. Same time your phone's location went dark." Now her breathing changed. Sharper. Panicked. But her voice was eerily calm. "This is insane," she said. "Are you tracking me now?" "No," I replied. "But your Bluetooth didn't disconnect from the house speaker until 3:42 a.m. I waited. I could feel my chest tightening, my hands going clammy. I wasn't built for confrontation. I was the kind of guy who apologized when someone else stepped on my shoe. But something in me had snapped clean open. Not with rage. Not with hate. With exhaustion. "I can explain," she started. I laughed. I actually laughed. The sad, shallow kind. "No. You can't explain a hotel receipt, missing underwear, and your ringtone going off in the background of a voicemail meant for someone else." Her mouth dropped open. I'd hit it. I stepped back, giving her room. And that's when it started. She dropped her purse to the floor, slow. Her knees buckled like she was about to fall, but she didn't. She caught herself on the hallway wall. And then she said something I didn't expect. "Please, don't post anything." I blinked. "Post?" She looked terrified. But not of me. Not of the damage she caused. No, she was afraid of the story getting out. Of her image being ruined. And that's when I realized. This wasn't the beginning of the end. This was the beginning of the unraveling. And I hadn't even gotten to the worst part yet. Because I hadn't told her. I recorded everything. She didn't speak right away. She just stood there with her hands still pressed against the wall, like letting go of it might cause her whole world to tip over. The hall was silent, save for the low hum of the fridge and the dull thud of her heartbeat that I swear I could hear from 10 feet away. I could see her mind scrambling, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to reach for some prepared excuse, but none of them fit anymore. Every word would be hollow. Every syllable would sound ridiculous. I didn't move. I just stared at her, letting the weight of the moment stretch out longer than it should. I wanted her to squirm. I wanted her to feel what it was like being the one left guessing, the one holding nothing but shattered trust and 1,000 gut-punch suspicions. "You recorded me?" she finally whispered. I tilted my head slightly, not answering. Her eyes flicked toward the living room, toward the mantel where we kept the small security cam we used for our old dog. It wasn't even positioned toward the hallway. But she didn't know that. And I wasn't about to correct her. "Daryl," she breathed, stepping forward. "This isn't what you think it is." I scoffed. My hands were trembling, and I quickly shoved them into my pockets to hide it. "You know what the worst part is?" I asked, my voice lower now. "It's not the hotel. It's not the texts. It's not even him. It's the way you came home like it was any other night. Like you could just slide back into this house, kiss me on the forehead, and pretend you weren't with another man 5 hours ago." "I didn't sleep with him," she said too quickly. And there it was. The first crack. I shook my head. "I never said you did." Her face went pale, like I'd just caught her mid-lie with a camera crew behind me. "You're being paranoid," she added, but her voice wavered again. "No," I replied. "I was paranoid 3 weeks ago, when I asked you about the hotel charge on our joint account, and you said it was a spa day. When I saw that stupid heart emoji from T, and you told me it was your cousin Tara. I believed you. I believed everything, even when it all made no sense. I stepped closer. She backed up. I even believed you last Sunday when you said you were going to your sister's. You never went. I drove by her place. Her car wasn't even there. She was in Miami. Her breathing changed again. Faster. Shallower. She pressed her lips together, and tears started to form, but I didn't feel sorry for her. Not now. Not this time. Where were you really, Marcy? She didn't answer. She just sat down slowly on the bottom step of the staircase, staring at the floor like it would give her instructions. And I knew. I knew in that moment, there was more. That what I thought I knew was just the first rotten layer. I messed up, she finally said. Her voice was quiet. Not apologetic. Not even regretful. Just resigned. But it wasn't like I planned any of this. It started with a message. A stupid compliment. He made me feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. I clenched my jaw. So instead of talking to me, you gave your loyalty to someone else? She didn't look up. You stopped noticing me. You stopped asking how I was. You just faded into the background. I wanted to scream, to shout, but I couldn't even raise my voice. I was too tired, too numb. I faded. I echoed. I was the only one holding us together. You just stopped being here, even when you were in the room. She finally looked up at me, eyes red, mascara streaking. I know, she said. I know I let this get out of control. A pause. Is there more? I asked. She hesitated. And in that tiny pause, in that split second, I knew. There was more. A lot more. I need to tell you something, she said. But it's going to hurt. My legs nearly gave out. I sat down slowly across from her, arms on my knees, bracing myself for the kind of truth that doesn't just crack your heart, but pulverizes it. Her lips parted. And then came the words I never expected. I think I'm in love with him. I don't know how long I sat there staring at her after she said it. Time slowed in a strange, sick way. Her voice kept echoing in my head like a broken record. I think I'm in love with him. The weight of those words settled in my chest like wet cement. And even though she looked like she regretted saying it the moment the syllables left her lips, it didn't matter. You can't unsay something like that. You can't shove it back in your throat and pretend it wasn't real. Not when your husband is sitting across from you, waiting for you to say literally anything else. I wanted to ask her why. Why him? Why now? Why not fight for this? But my mouth refused to cooperate. My brain was too busy spiraling. I was still stuck on the word love. Not a fling. Not a mistake. She said love. And I knew the difference. I knew the tone in her voice wasn't lust or infatuation. It was something more complicated. More dangerous. The kind of affection that doesn't fade after a bottle of wine and a bad decision. It was the kind that burns slowly behind the scenes until it lights your entire life on fire. I didn't mean for it to happen, she whispered again, hugging her knees on the stairs. I finally managed to speak, though I barely recognized my own voice. How long? Her eyes darted away from mine. A few months. A few. I trailed off, my voice catching. So every time you came home late, every work dinner, every time you kissed me goodbye like nothing was wrong, you were... Daryl, you were already gone, weren't you? I said, my voice cracking. You left before you even packed a bag. You just walked out of this marriage and forgot to shut the door behind you. Her shoulders trembled, but I didn't care if she cried. Not anymore. Not when I'd already been sobbing in private for weeks, pretending everything was fine while her heart was being mailed out to another man in pieces. I stood up slowly. My limbs felt like they were filled with sludge. I gave you everything, I said. I'm not perfect. God knows I'm not. But I gave you everything I had left. She wiped her cheek and shook her head. I know you did. But it wasn't enough anymore. That line shattered something inside me that I didn't know could break again. Not enough. I've heard it before from a teacher, from a boss, from my own father. But from her? The woman I worshipped? The one I built a life around? That one hurt in a way I don't know how to put into words. I started pacing. Not because I had somewhere to go, but because if I stayed still, I might explode. The air was too thick, the silence too cruel. Every picture on the wall felt like it was watching me unravel. Does he know you're married? I asked suddenly. She hesitated, and that hesitation told me more than her answer ever could. No, she admitted quietly. I let out a dry laugh. So I'm good enough to lie to, but not good enough to be a problem for him, huh? He thought I was separated. And you just let him believe that? She stood now, defensive. What was I supposed to say, Daryl? That I'm married to a man who barely talks to me? Who sits at the kitchen table every night looking like the world's collapsing around him, but won't say it? I stopped pacing and looked at her. You were supposed to say the truth. That's what you're supposed to say. The room went quiet again. She looked tired. I felt worse. There was no yelling, no furniture breaking, just two people who were already miles apart pretending they hadn't noticed. Then her phone buzzed on the console table. We both looked at it at the same time. Just one word on the screen. Outside. Her face went pale. My stomach twisted. You invited him here? I said, the words coming out like ash. She didn't answer. You brought him here, to our house? Daryl, I didn't think you'd be home. So that makes it okay? She opened her mouth, but I didn't give her the chance. I walked over, grabbed her phone, and looked out the window. Sure enough, a black sedan was parked by the curb. A figure sat in the driver's seat, engine idling. I turned to her, shaking. You tell him to leave, I said. You tell him, right now, that your husband is home, that your lie is over, that you're not single. You tell him the truth, Marcy, or I will. Her lip trembled, but she didn't move. So I stepped outside, barefoot, heart pounding, straight toward the car. And what happened next changed everything. The front door clicked shut behind me, but I couldn't hear it over the sound of my own heartbeat. My bare feet pressed against the concrete porch, cold and gritty. The outside air was thick with the scent of late summer rain, but my skin was burning like I was standing in fire. He sat in the car like it was the most natural thing in the world, one hand lazily draped over the steering wheel, the other on his phone. No nerves, no panic, just the confident posture of a man who believed he was welcome. As I approached, the headlights cut through the twilight behind me, throwing my shadow onto the lawn. The guy looked up, noticed me, and I saw it, the smirk. That slight, arrogant curl of his lip like he'd just been handed something he hadn't earned but fully expected. He rolled down the window halfway. You must be Daryl, he said, like we were about to trade pleasantries over bourbon and business cards. I didn't answer right away. I was busy trying to calculate whether I wanted to speak, scream, or punch the mirror off his car. My chest was tight. My voice was caught somewhere behind my teeth. But when I did finally speak, I surprised even myself. You've been sleeping with my wife, I said flatly. He didn't flinch. Didn't even look away. She told me you were separated, he replied, like it was some sort of get-out-of-jail-free card. I assumed it was mutual. Well, I muttered, it wasn't. Not for me. He tapped his fingers on the steering wheel, like he was waiting for something for me to either explode or retreat. Maybe both. But I didn't move. I just stood there, staring at him, trying to decide whether this guy was a monster or just another clueless idiot who'd fallen for the wrong woman at the wrong time. She's inside, I said. And she's yours now. Congrats. That caught him off guard. The smirk vanished. Wait, what? She told me she loves you, I continued. Did you know that? She said it right before she started crying in the hallway. And you know what? I don't even think she meant it. I think she just needed someone to fill in the silence I left behind. He blinked, confused. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to understand what you're walking into, I said. You're not the hero in this story, buddy. You're just the next guy who's going to find out she's really good at pretending. A long pause followed. His face shifted. The arrogance faded, replaced by something closer to uncertainty. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. She told me she's pregnant. I stared at him, stunned. 2 weeks ago, he added. She said she hadn't told anyone. Not even you. I felt my vision narrow. The edges of my world dimmed, like I was falling down an invisible hole. Pregnant? She hadn't told me anything. We hadn't even touched each other in months. My mouth opened, but no words came out. She said she wasn't sure yet, he continued. But if it's mine, she'd keep it. I took a step back. I needed air. Space. Reality. None of this felt real anymore. My marriage wasn't just ending. It was being erased, rewritten, overwritten with a version where I didn't even exist. She didn't tell you? He asked softly, like suddenly realizing how deep he'd just cut me. I didn't answer. I turned around and walked back to the house. Inside, she was standing near the living room, arms crossed like she already knew what had been said. You're pregnant? I asked, the words barely coming out. She froze. I watched the truth slide across her face like a storm front. She tried to speak, tried to lie, but there was nothing left to hide behind. It might not be his, she said. My knees buckled slightly, but it's definitely not mine. She nodded once, and that was the end of the world as I knew it. She said it like it was a technicality. Like the part where she wasn't sure who the father was made everything somehow less devastating. Less disgusting. I stood there, staring at the woman I once called the love of my life, and all I could think about was how many times I'd defended her to everyone, to friends who said she seemed cold, to my own sister who warned me she was detached. To myself, every time I saw the signs and stuffed them into mental drawers labeled "Don't Make Trouble." But now there were no drawers left to hide anything. The entire house was on fire, and she'd lit the match with her bare hands. I didn't ask any more questions. What was the point? I can see in her face she'd decided long before tonight that she was done with us. I think she was just waiting for the moment I'd figure it out on my own so she wouldn't have to be the villain out loud. The next morning, I called in sick. I didn't sleep that night, just sat on the back porch with a blanket wrapped around me like I'd been orphaned, listening to the wind rattle the patio chairs we picked out together on a random Wednesday 2 summers ago. Everything in that house was chosen together. The plates, the couch, even the damn light bulbs. But now it all felt like props on a fake set, like someone had swapped out the real memories for cardboard replicas. I didn't cry. I wish I had. I wish I could have released it. Instead, I just sat in silence, my chest buzzing with this low, painful frequency like something between rage and grief, but not fully either. When she came downstairs that morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, scrolled her phone, asked if I wanted toast. I didn't answer. I couldn't even look at her. I went upstairs, grabbed my laptop, and opened a folder I never thought I'd open again, my wedding photos. I looked through each one, frame by frame, trying to remember if she ever actually looked at me the way I looked at her. And maybe she did. Maybe she loved me once. But whatever was there back then was long dead now, buried under months of lies, missed calls, and that sickening smirk I saw on the man she let inside our life. By midday, I made a decision. Not out of spite, not out of revenge, but because I needed the lie to end everywhere, not just between us. I opened our shared Google Photos account, the one she never bothered logging out of, and uploaded every screenshot I had, the texts, the hotel confirmations. Even a clip from our doorbell cam showing her getting into his car at 11:13 p.m. when she told me she was just heading out for groceries. I didn't send it to friends. I didn't send it to family. I just uploaded it quietly into the family album folder titled Christmas Plus Special Moments. Within an hour, I started getting messages. Her mom was the first. A confused string of question marks. Then her best friend Ashley, a short, sharp, "Is this real?" Then her boss, of all people, who apparently had access to that album because Marcy had once uploaded a work party picture there for the company newsletter. That one stung a bit. The shame wasn't even mine, but I felt it anyway. Like I'd detonated a bomb in the middle of our fake perfect life, and now I had to stand in the ashes while people whispered, "Poor Daryl." I always thought she was too much woman for him. By the time she came downstairs again, her phone was buzzing nonstop. She knew. She looked at me with wide eyes, panicked. "What did you do?" she hissed. I didn't answer. I just kept wiping down the counter with a rag that already smelled like her perfume. She lunged for my phone. I let her take it. There was nothing on it that she could erase fast enough. The damage was done. And then it happened. She lost control for the first time. "You're ruining my life, Daryl," she screamed, slamming her hand against the kitchen table. "You've gone psycho." I looked at her, calm as stone. "I didn't ruin your life. I just stopped covering up what you did to mine." She looked like she wanted to cry, to scream, to throw something. But instead, she grabbed her purse, stuffed it full of anything she could find, and stormed out the door. I heard her car peel out of the driveway. I didn't chase. I didn't text. I didn't care where she went. I walked upstairs, shut the door to the bedroom, and finally, I cried. But not because I missed her. Because I didn't. It was 2 days after she left when I got the message. I hadn't heard from Marcy since the blow-up. Not a single call or text. She hadn't come back for her things, not even her laptop charger or the framed photo of her dad she kept on the windowsill. The silence was eerie, but it was also strangely peaceful. I kept the house quiet, no music, no TV, no talking. Just me, the slow drip of the faucet in the kitchen, and the occasional creak of wood reminding me this place was built to hold a family that never really existed. I had been floating in that numb quiet when the email came in. It was from a guy named Brennan R. The subject line just read, "I think we've both been played." At first, I thought it was spam, but then I opened it and my blood ran cold. "Daryl, sorry to contact you like this. I got your info through mutual connections. I don't want anything from you. I just think you deserve to know the full picture. I was with Marcy for over a year. I ended it 6 months ago. She never told me she was married. She said she was divorced, emotionally abused, and rebuilding her life. I found out the truth the day I saw her shopping with you. She told me you were her cousin. I didn't believe it. So I followed her car one day. That's how I knew where you lived. I sat outside your house for 20 minutes, just trying to process what kind of person lies like that. I walked away. I blocked her. But now I see she's done it again. If you want the full story, I have texts, photos, voicemails. You're not the first. Brennan. I reread it 3 times, each time feeling like the world was tilting harder beneath me. A year? Another man? She told him I was her cousin? I had to get up and walk in circles around the living room just to keep from screaming. Every time I thought I had reached the bottom of the well, another trapdoor opened and dropped me further into the dark. My wife, the woman I cooked for, cleaned for, made excuses for, had not only betrayed me with some smug guy in a sedan, but apparently this wasn't her first act. I replied with shaking hands. Told Brennan to send whatever he had. I didn't care how bad it was. I just needed the truth now. All of it. He sent everything. There were messages from over a year ago, calling him my secret piece. Photos of them in restaurants I had once taken her to myself. Voicemails where she whispered things like, "You're the only person I trust," while I was probably downstairs cooking dinner. And the worst, the one that completely undid me, was a picture of her wearing a scarf I bought her for our 7th anniversary, curled up in bed beside him, making a peace sign with her fingers like she was proud of the damage. I stared at that photo until my screen dimmed. Then I threw the laptop off the couch, not because I wanted to break it, but because I didn't know what else to do. I sank to the floor and let out this strange, cracked sound, not quite a sob, not quite a scream. Just collapse. Later that night, I got another email from Brennan. This time, he sent a screenshot of a group chat from years ago. Apparently, Marcy had been doing this long before me. Long before him. One guy, a married doctor in Denver, had gone to therapy for 6 months because of what she did to him. Another claimed she drained his account, left with his car, and ghosted him 2 days before his birthday. There were 4 of them in that chat. All different lives. All different cities. One common denominator, her. I sat there at my desk, completely still, while my inbox became a graveyard of her past. It wasn't infidelity anymore. It wasn't even betrayal. It was pathology. And the woman I'd been mourning? She was never real. It was exactly 9 days after she left when I heard the door open. Not a knock. Not a message ahead of time. Just the familiar squeak of the hinges and the soft shuffle of shoes across the foyer tile. I had stopped waiting for her by then. The nights were still sleepless, but not from heartbreak anymore, from the exhausting mental unraveling of who I'd actually married and how much of my life had been scripted by someone else. I was upstairs folding laundry, her laundry, ironically, when the sound made me freeze in place. For a split second, I thought I imagined it. But then I heard a voice I hadn't heard before, muffled and low. A man's voice. And hers, too, rushed, urgent, like she was trying to get through something before I reached them. I walked to the top of the stairs slowly, heart pounding, not because I was scared, but because I was deeply, physically sick of surprises. Every moment since that first confrontation felt like some twisted social experiment where I was the last to know. But I kept walking, step by step, gripping the railing, until I turned the corner and saw them. Marcy was standing in the living room with a suitcase. Her eyes met mine instantly. She looked thinner, more frazzled, but still composed. She always had that mask. But the guy next to her? He wasn't the same one from the car. No smugness. No charm. He was older, maybe early 50s, with a nervous energy that didn't fit the situation. He held a set of keys in his hand and stared at the floor like he'd been dragged into a war he didn't sign up for. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. My silence had become its own language. "Daryl," she began, her voice light, cautious, rehearsed. "I know I should have called. You shouldn't be here." I cut in. Calm, cold, measured. "You don't live here anymore." She flinched, but then steadied herself. "I just need to grab a few things. I won't stay long." "You brought him." I nodded toward the man who still hadn't made eye contact with me. "He's just here to help," she said. "That's all." But I knew that wasn't all. "You don't bring backup unless you're expecting fallout." I turned to the man. "You know who I am?" He looked up, finally, eyes guilty, unsure. I'm her lawyer," he said. I blinked. "Excuse me." She wanted me here to serve the paperwork in person. We figured that would be best. Marcy stepped forward, reaching into her bag. I held up a hand before she could get close. "Serve it over there," I said, "next to the photo of our wedding." She paused, clearly uncomfortable, but obeyed. She placed the envelope on the table, right beside a framed shot of us holding hands on the beach, back when everything still felt possible. I hadn't taken it down yet. I don't know why. Maybe part of me needed the ghost to stay visible. I crossed my arms. "So that's it. You sneak out, leave me to rot, torch our entire life, and now you want to make it official like it's some business transaction." "Daryl," she said, her voice trembling for the first time, "you've already made it official. You blasted my messages to everyone. My family won't speak to me. I lost my job because of the screenshots you uploaded. You didn't leave me a way back." "There was no way back before any of that," I replied. "You left the second you started telling other men you were someone else. All I did was stop helping you lie." She looked away, swallowing hard. The lawyer, still fidgeting, cleared his throat. "There's also a proposal for asset division inside the envelope. She's not contesting anything. She just wants to move forward." I didn't even look at it. I stared at Marcy instead, really looked at her. And for the first time, I saw the cracks in her performance. The tired makeup, the faint bruise of anxiety beneath her eyes, the unraveling seams of a woman who spent too long pretending to be everything to everyone. But that recognition brought no comfort, no closure. It only made me wonder how many other people she'd ruined before they finally figured it out. Before she turned to leave, she said one more thing. "I'm late. I still don't know for sure. But if it is mine, I'll take care of it alone. You don't have to worry." I stared at her, not out of concern, but because her wording betrayed something else. "If it's yours," I said. "So now even you don't believe it is?" She opened her mouth, closed it again. Then she walked out, and I didn't follow. After she left, I stood alone in the living room for a long time. The envelope sat there like some kind of twisted gift, her final act, neat and legal. But the house, for once, didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt empty, yes, but it was the kind of empty that comes after a long storm finally passes. The kind that lets you breathe again. I didn't cry this time. Not even a flicker. There was nothing left to grieve because I finally understood she hadn't taken my life from me. She'd just stopped pretending to be part of it. That night, I didn't scroll through old messages. I didn't pace. I didn't check her socials or try to piece together where she went or who she was with. I just opened the windows, aired out the house, and started clearing things. Every drawer, every closet, every trace of her. I boxed it up, not in rage, but with quiet, deliberate calm. I was making space, not running. And every inch of the house that used to feel like hers began to feel like mine for the very first time. A week later, I met Brennan in person. He had flown in on business and asked if I wanted to grab coffee. At first, I was hesitant. What was there to say between two men who unknowingly shared the same woman? But when we sat down, something strange happened. We laughed. Not at her, not at ourselves, just at the absurdity of it all. Two strangers with entirely different lives, connected by the same lie. We talked for over 2 hours, about everything but her. Work, families, books, stupid shows we both watched. When he left, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Normal. More surprises came after that. Her lawyer emailed me to say Marcy had changed her mind about the assets. She didn't want a dime. No claims. No house. No pension. Maybe guilt finally caught up. Maybe she realized she couldn't rebuild a future using pieces stolen from mine. Either way, I signed the papers and had them delivered back. It was over. But the real shift didn't happen with her departure. It happened in the silence that followed. I started sleeping again. Cooking for myself, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I called my sister and apologized for disappearing. I told my mom the truth and, for the first time, I didn't feel ashamed. I started walking in the evenings, sometimes just around the block, sometimes for miles. I didn't need a destination. I just needed forward motion. And then came something I never expected, a message from Ashley, Marcy's best friend, or rather, former best friend. She'd seen everything unfold from the sidelines. She never said much, but she told me she was proud of how I'd handled it. Said I had more grace than most men would. That meant more than I expected it to. It reminded me I wasn't weak for loving someone who betrayed me. I was strong for walking away when I finally saw the truth. Months passed. I renovated the house. Got rid of the shared office, turned it into a reading room. I painted the walls, replaced the couch, planted a garden, messy, wild, totally imperfect. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And one morning, as I sat outside with coffee and sunlight warming my face, I realized something simple and quietly profound. I didn't miss her anymore. I didn't miss the version of me who needed her approval. I didn't miss the version of her who never really existed. I just missed myself. And now, finally, I had him back. So no, this story doesn't end with some revenge twist or a dramatic outburst. It ends like this, in peace, in clarity. In a house filled with fresh air and books and music, I like playing softly in the background. And sometimes, that's the best kind of ending you can ask for. Not the one where you win her back. The one where you never want to.